beautiful people out there in the universe. We are here to have another amazing installment of Bridging the Atlantic. And today's conversation is going to be focused more so on finance, but from a global perspective. And I have some amazing panelists here for you today, but I want them to do the honor of introducing themselves because they're the expert on their lives, their industry, and their businesses, right? So the first amazing panelist we have for today, I would like to introduce is Marietta Willis of Richmond Capital.
You're on today.
Hi, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you again for having me here today. I'm really excited to be here. My company is Richmond Capital. I'm the CEO of Richmond Capital Solutions, and we help business owners, real estate investors, and consumers to establish a sustainability by assisting them with their financial capital. We help them get capital, beyond the conventional lending criteria. So our business, we help business owners get the money they need to start, grow, and build their business. We also help business owners with building business credit, which is also a way of starting, building, and growing their business. At Richmond Capital, we believe that money matters.
Yep. Yes, it does. It sure does. And that's why we're going to have an amazing conversation here today. And I'm glad you were able to jump on and give us a little bit more insight into the financing aspect of it, because you can have the biggest aspirations in the world, but if you don't fund it properly, it's not going to go anywhere, right?
So true. So true.
Yes, yes, yes. So my next guest I want to join the panel here today is John of the Diaspora Freedom Initiative. Please join me on stage. Please, please, please.
Hey, Candace. My name is John Debelot. I'm currently the CEO of Diaspora Freedom Initiative. And what we do is we create a safe experience and a safe platform for companies here in the United States to create a subsidiary company in Africa and start building out from there. And we want to do it as a kind of one-stop and done type of situation. So our clients, they'll get all their legal fees taken care of, they'll get their company registered, but it also comes with a fifth of an acre of land in Africa and an investor certificate so that they get the tax benefits of being a qualified investor, as well as their import and their export. So that's what we do here at the Diaspora Freedom Initiative.
Super duper exciting. And I'm excited to actually invest in the motherland. So we will definitely dive deeper into that a little bit later. But I want to bring on my last panelist, Mark, if you could join me on. And his business is My Heritage, but I'm going to let him talk a little bit more about what he does. So Mark, hi, thank you for joining us today.
Hi everyone. I'm happy to be here. My name is Mark Darkon, actually. I'm from Ghana. I'm currently the CEO of Heritage Capital Management Limited. It's an investment management company based in Ghana with branch offices in other places like Europe and South Africa. I'm also currently the president of the Asian African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Ghana chapter. My work is basically financial intermediation. So what I do is to match two units of the economy, those who have excess funds that they need to put these funds to use, and those who also have projects that they need funds for such projects, for the projects to take off, and for the projects to also those that are already established to grow. We bridge the gap. We put these two units together. So the work is financial intermediation. You have excess money, we help you know where to invest this. You also have an investment, you need funds, we also help you know how to get the funds to grow your business. Basically, that's what we do.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, because that's very important, right? Because you don't want to have your funds just sitting around or have excess and just have Uncle Sam staring at that like, I think I want a little piece of that, right? So that is definitely important as well. So this is a conversation, a global conversation about finance. But we definitely want to get a little bit of the fundamentals in place so that we can follow the conversation out there in the universe for those of you not in the finance industry, right? So I actually would like to dive a little bit deeper with Marietta about like actually starting and funding your business here in the US. So let's start there, and then we'll branch over to everyone else and how, you know, you guys help business owners get started in their industry, right? So Marietta, please let us know, like, what are the requirements to actually like start getting the funds for their business, and what do they have to do? How, you know, all that good stuff. Talk to us.
Well, Candace, there's several different ways that you can receive fundings for your business. If you are a startup, you can actually start up with, like everybody else did, you know, coming out of your personal pocket. But of course, that's not actually the best way to do it. The best way is to use other people's money, right? So we help you find financing in personal loans that can be used for business funds. There are also business funding lenders who will fund based on your personal credit, and you can get, you know, a generous amount of funding. It may not be everything that you need, but it's something to start with. And the key is building on what you do receive. But then we also have the best way of getting funding and using other people's money is by building business credit. And that's also something that my company does, is to help you to build business credit. It takes a little time to build it up. And I'm going to say, you know, 6 to 9 months, maybe I'll say more, 9 to 12 months to really be at a point where you can have this business lines of credit that you can really take and move your business to the next level. So the first thing you want to do, though, is you have to be a legitimate business. That's the first thing. So you have to have that business entity registered with your state secretary. You want to get your EIN. You also want to have a business bank account. Having that business bank account is going to help you along your journey. You also want to have a business telephone number that's not your personal cell phone number. You want to have a business address that's not your home address. Also a fax number. You also want to have those numbers registered, or I'll say registered with the 411. So you want to be listed. And it usually takes about 5 days to 2 weeks to actually get listed in the 411. So you want to be listed because that's where the business lenders will be looking to see if you're a legitimate business. They look for that address that's going to say that you're in a building as opposed to, working from home. It's not essential for every type of loan, but if you're really looking to get into the big bucks and look at getting, the real money, you want to have those things in place. And these are things that you want to have in place before you start applying for business loans, because these are the things that the business lenders look for.
Nice. So what are the actual requirements when they're going to start credit in order to get the actual funding?
Well, the things that I just mentioned, you definitely want to have in place. If you don't have those things in place, there's no need even applying for a loan because you're going to get turned down. And most lenders will turn you down, but they won't tell you why. And it could be as simple as, okay, I didn't see their number listed in the 411, or I didn't see a business address. It could be something as simple as that, but they'll never tell you that.
What's the actual credit score? What's a business credit score? How is that different from a personal?
A business credit score is different in that with your business credit score, it ranges from anywhere from 1 to 100. With the personal credit score, of course, anywhere from 0 to 800. The difference in the two is that when you build personal credit, let's say you got that credit card, $500 credit card, and you use 300, 400, 500 of that credit. Well, on your personal side, your credit goes down, right? So we all know that you can't use that much credit and have it, go up, it's actually going to go down. Even though they offer you all these credit cards because you have good credit, the minute you use it, your credit goes down. Business credit is just the opposite. When you build business credit, as long as you're paying on time, and these are the two things they look for, that you're paying on time and that you're actually paying, let's put it that way. So those are the only two things that lenders look at, whether you're actually paying and that you're paying on time. The key to that is if you're paying on time or paying it early, then your 30 or 60 or 90-day term, your credit actually goes up. And not only that, but the more credit that you use, the more credit they'll give you.
Nice.
The lenders are in the business of lending money so that they make money. So if you're using more credit, they're going to give you more as long as you're doing it responsibly.
Nice. Thank you. So why I started with that is because this is information that we're generally not privy to, especially in the Black community. Like, it's not something that we discuss, like, at the dinner table as a normal conversation. Like, right. Hey, how'd you start your business credit, Dad? Yeah. Like, those aren't things we get to talk about. So thank you for that insight. And I really wanted to talk to John in the same kind of breath. Like, how do we get started with our business on the diaspora? And like you said, in a safe and secure way, right? Because a lot of the reason why we're not is because of intimidation, right? Like, I'm going to go over there. I've never been over there. I don't know anyone over there. How do I now, invest in something I have no like actual connection to?
Right. No, definitely. And the connections matter because it's an open business market in Africa. And what I mean by that is here in the United States, we all have an idea of what something costs. In Africa, that's not necessarily true. So in Africa, something might cost $100,000. And the African agent that you're working with knows that it costs $100,000, but they also kind of think maybe you don't know that. And they kind of have an idea of what it costs in the United States. So for example, we do some beachfront properties, costs $110,000. But they know if you want a place in Miami, it costs 1.5 million. So they're now looking at, okay, we're in the middle of 1.5 million and 110,000. Can I land that this person wouldn't be too suspicious? So it's not necessarily a ripoff because you're a business person and you're trying to maximize your profit. But as far as the benefits included in us coming to Africa versus the Chinese who don't necessarily consider Africans as equals, or the Europeans who have proven by killing over 10 million Africans that they do not consider Africans as equals. When we come, we are coming to meet our equal brothers and sisters. So the benefits of us being there instead of those other parties, you can't even put a price on it. So unfortunately, those types of things scare us away because we're also not coming with the same level of funding. And like you said, sometimes we don't know about business credit and we don't know about corporate credit. And sometimes we have to do that too. We've run strategic programs for clients where we'll send them to a small credit union. We'll send them in with $1,000 of their own money, have them buy a CD, and use that as collateral for an EIN only business loan. And then they pay down that loan and they take they give that $1,000 collateral, they get 1,500. Then they go to another small, you can't do Wells Fargo, you can't use a big bank. You go to another small bank or you go to another small credit union and you do exactly the same thing so that it's a secured loan, but the security is in the bank. So you can go ahead and negotiate that. I only want to pay 2%. I only want to pay 1.5 because it's secured. And we run them through this process and start paying down that to kind of build them some corporate credit as well to finance going over there. But once you're over there, credit changes. So one of the biggest things about going over there safely is you want to make sure you're dealing with, number one, a company that is beholden to your laws. So we're a U.S. company. So we do something wrong, we're in U.S. court, doesn't matter where we did it. And you want to make sure that you're getting everything done at once, because the whole myth, and it's a semi-myth, but the whole myth that this corruption is kind of super rampant and someone's going to come ask you for a bribe is based on you not knowing what you're doing. So if you get set up with a company in Africa, unlike in the United States, if you're doing certain businesses, you may not need a business license. You might just need to be a registered company, and you might not need a license to do that kind of business. In Africa, you always need a business license. So someone can set up your company, you have a fully registered company, you think you're ready to go, you start doing business, and then some junior government official notices you don't have a license, and they say, well, I can shut you down, or you can give me $10,000, and then we'll make it go away. That's where the bribes start. If you are squared away and you have all your legalities covered, there's nothing that they can force a bribe out of you for. So it puts you in a category of business owner that you know what you're doing. No one's going to be attacking you for any kind of bribes or anything like that, and you're safe on both sides of the spectrum.
Nice, nice, nice. First of all, that's the part where it intimidates a lot of people from wanting to join, right? To come over there. It's like, I'm gonna have to bribe people. They're gonna want $10,000 from me. Like that's a lot, right? For a business owner just starting out, like how do you maintain that and understand the business dynamic there, right? So thank you for that. And Mark, I definitely want to dive a little bit deeper into your business and how you help them like achieve like hiding their money and understanding where to invest it in order to not have that excess. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay. All right. So we're going to move on a little bit and we'll come back to Mark. All right. So now I kind of want to get more into the cultural conversation behind finance, right? On the diaspora and here as well. So, and this is, your opinion, you can pull facts and all that good stuff. But historically, how have we as the Black community done business? Like in your eyes and in your experience, how have we as the Black community done business? Anyone can jump in.
I'll go ahead and start. In my opinion, the Black community has not done business, we've done more business with other people as opposed to doing business with ourselves. Historically, what is it? Black Wall Street. We had Black Wall Street years and years ago, where we had our own community of Black businesses. And, it was thriving. Unfortunately, that was burned down to the ground. But we didn't try to rebuild that. We started just continuing to use, the other people's businesses, white people's businesses. We didn't try to rebuild our own. And right now, I think it's a good time for us to really start building our own businesses again. I mean, I think this election opened some eyes to a lot of people, and the pandemic itself is an opportunity for us to start and build and grow our businesses. But we need to look more into building together as a community. And historically, we weren't doing that, except for, I'm sure there are other times, but Black Wall Street is one of those times that really comes to light because of how big it was and how successful it was. But I think right now, we should definitely go back to that.
I agree.
Sorry, John. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I agree. Yeah, if you have a question for her, go ahead.
So how do you think that we can rebuild Black Wall Street then, if that is, how you see us as doing business? Like, how do we do that?
Well, first, we have to educate ourselves on how to build a business the right way. For the most part, we built our businesses. We started home, of course, and we, like I said, we come out of our own pockets. We, little by little, but we don't take the time to really educate ourselves on how did that white man build that business over there. If it's something that you're interested in, do the research. Find out how they did it, and start there. Find the resources. find someone who can help you with finding the resources. We have to invest in ourselves. A lot of times we don't want to pay the money that it's going to take to really educate ourselves to get that to that level. But if you don't do that, we're not going to get there. I mean, even if you go back and look at Black Wall Street, each of those businesses probably started on their own, but I'm pretty sure that they each had some type of bank business in order, or bank loans in order to get that business off the ground. They probably started in their homes as well, but they built enough that they could go to that bank. And it was probably harder for them to do it then than it is for us to do it now. If we just educate ourselves right now on how to build or how to get that financing, how to build it right, we could do it probably much easier than they did.
Nice. John?
Yeah, so the way we look at it, we looked at other ethnic groups because to us, we took the kind of harsh, hardline stance that the system isn't built for us. It's never been built for us, and it's never worked for us. So we didn't want to take a look at the system. Not saying that it can't work. I believe it can work, and there's obviously outliers that have made it work. Oprah, so on and so forth. But we saw communities coming up, and we were like, okay, Oprah's an outlier, but how did the entire Asian community come up when they have the lowest voter turnout? How does that work? Right. So what we did, we took a look at all these communities, and we noticed that they all have a manufacturing base in their home country, whether it's Little Havana, whether it's the JCC, whether it's Chinatown, and then they have a geographical location in the United States, and those places I just mentioned. And when you go to those places, the next time you're in Chinatown, go take a look at the dumpster. Everything says made in China or Taiwan, right? So we're looking at places like Freedom, Georgia, and there's a new Black Wall Street being built in Minnesota, and all of these places. And we're like, all right, we need our people who understand that the further away you are from the customer, the more money you make. And they understand that retail is that closest to the customer business, and that wealth has been historically garnered in this country through manufacturing. Whoever owns the manufacturing has been able to control the price and been able to control the flow of wealth. So we ask our people to go to Africa, create manufacturing, buy the land for pennies on a dollar, build up the manufacturing plants for pennies on the dollar, pay people well for pennies on the dollar, and then ship those products back to the United States, sell them to whoever you want. But every single dime that you spent on your business side has empowered a Black community somewhere in the world. Nice. And so that's what we're looking at doing, and what we're hoping, to push a little harder. So yeah, for us, we want to focus on manufacturing, and that's just a piece of the puzzle. Finance is another piece, tech is another piece. So it's not the whole answer, but we want to make sure that we have that foundation and that background, because if we can make hoodies, I always like to use the hoodie example, but if we can make hoodies for 5 cents in Kenya, and we can ship them back with a free trade deal between Kenya and the United States, and we can sell them for $9.99, now we're competing with Target from our basement. We don't need Walmart. We don't need Target shelf space. Now we're competing. We have the right prices. Our profit margins are beautiful. They're the same profit margins as Target and Walmart. And we're not trying to push the $50 hoodie because support Black business, right? So, that's what we'd like to see happen. And we think if we can control prices, that now that spirit of competition is really the ancestral spirit of white folks. It's really the colonizer ancestral spirit is the spirit of competition. They compete with themselves in Europe. They competed with themselves in England. And it's really a point that I like to point out to people, because they're always like, until we unify, we can't do anything. And I'm like, we were colonized while France was at war with England, and England was at war with Spain, and Russia was fighting all of them. They weren't unified. They just had their focus. They knew what they were going to do. They knew how to do it. And they knew that if somebody else came knocking, well, wait a minute, now it's us against you. We'll get back to our fight later, but it's us against you. And that's really what we got to have as a common goal. The idea that we're all going to believe the same things and do the same things, and all of us love each other, that's unrealistic. But if we all know that we want generational wealth, if we all know that we want our children to be safe, if we all know that we want to build wealth in a place outside of white supremacy where that it's not going to get bombed by the military. Black Wall Street was bombed by the military, not just the Klan. Like the US government destroyed Black Wall Street in association with the Klan. So we want these things, we want these anchors to be outside of white supremacy, and everybody else has done it. And that's, I think, what we missed. We missed that Mexicans are importing from Mexico. Cubans are importing from Cuba, and they're the only ones allowed to do it. They can get through the embargo as long as they're Cuban descendants. The Jews are importing from Israel. You know, the Chinese are importing from China. The Japanese, same thing. And they've been able to brand it. When we get sushi, we want nori. Well, there's nowhere in the United States where you can get nori. So you're getting seaweed from Japan, and we need it. If we don't have the nori, it's not real sushi. You know, oh, we can't have that. So you know, they branded it in such a way that we actually help them with their overseas manufacturing process, and it just gives them a wealth base that's completely outside of the reach of white imperialism. And they can do what they want. Worst case scenario, they go home and live in the mansions that they've built back home based off of what they've sold here. You know, so that's what I want for all of us. I want us to go to Ghana, go to Kenya, go to Sierra Leone, go to Tanzania, and be hanging out on our beach houses when we're not feeling it here. You know, they elect another person that maybe we're not aligned with, and we say, you know what, I think I'm going to take a 4-year hiatus. I can run my business remotely, you know, from Mombasa. And I'll see you guys in 4 years. Right?
Even with, you know, Rona, right? Like that's something that could have been a possibility if we had that home base, right?
That's right. That's right.
I contacted you about like, listen, I just want something out here. Like, and if it's in Africa, then that's where I'm meant to be, then great. And right. Because even as a 9-to-5er, right? So I'm a hybrid entrepreneur, right? I run my businesses, but I also have a 9-to-5.
Right.
But in the midst of this pandemic, it has shown that you can do it all, right?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, if you set your time together, you can go and you know, build the wealth in Africa, move to Africa for to however long you want to stay there. If you want to escape what's going on here for a little while, take a breather, get into the cultural connection, right? And
absolutely,
that's an amazing thing, like that it's a possibility. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That we don't, and like I said, are not privy to, with it being like a Thanksgiving conversation, with it being a nightly, like, hey, everyone come into the dinner table. We're going to have a conversation about how we're going to distribute on the diaspora.
Right.
And that's amazing. And I like the connection that you guys made where like, this is how, right? Because we all can say and fantasize about Black Wall Street and bringing it back. But if we bring it back and the same exact thing happens, then we're, you know, kind of shit out of luck, right?
Right. Exactly.
That's right.
I love that. I love that.
And it's not all us. It's not all us bringing things there. I know we have that kind of mentality as Americans, like, oh, we're going to bring them this technology and we're going to bring them this like civilization, so to speak. But it's not all of that. There's an amazing system in East Africa called M-Pesa. I wish all of you guys look it up. It is so low tech. It's the most high tech mobile financial system I've ever seen. You can have a flip phone and still utilize this system. You can pay any government fee with this system, and you can move money from the United States to your cell phone in Africa for free with this system. It's ridiculous. It's hardwired into the SIM card, and the software simply reads the encoding from the SIM card. So you don't need a smartphone. You know, when I'm here in the United States, I want to use mobile payment. If I don't have a Samsung, my Samsung Pay, it doesn't matter anymore. If I don't have an iPhone, my iPay doesn't matter anymore. They're over there literally with like the $9.99 Walmart flip phone. And as long as they put in the SIM card, it immediately engages M-Pesa. They do not need a bank account, which is one of the ways that we've been kept down in this country, is not having access to banks and having to pay for check cashing. No one needs a bank in East Africa. They can pay every single bill with that phone. You pull up on the side of the road and there's someone selling potatoes, and you whip out your phone, they whip out their phone, they get a receipt, you get a receipt immediately, and they give you the potatoes and you keep driving. It is
Wow.
amazing.
Wow.
So, you know,
Maybe that's where Apple is getting their technology from.
how about it? Yeah, how about it?
Wow.
Marietta, do you have anything else you want to add before I move on to the next question?
No, I think we're good there.
Okay. All right. So, in that same vein and along that same line of thinking, how can we strengthen our collective dollar? So, you kind of touched on it, John. And Marietta, you can jump on in and give your perspective on how we can strengthen the collective dollar.
Well, I kind of agree with John on some of the things that he said. Actually, some of the things are pretty amazing. But I think partly we, like I said, as we educate ourselves, we come together, working together with each other, because you may have a part of, the piece of this business that I don't have. And rather than me trying to reinvent the wheel and doing it all myself, spending all of my money, why not we collaborate together? You do handle this piece and I'll handle this piece. Being in corporate America, I've watched operations, especially in the company that I've recently been with. I've watched the operations. I've watched this company go from a $1.5 million company to a $5 million company in 3 years. And I watched the way they did that. So I'm taking what I learned from the corporate world, and we can do the same thing in our own businesses. So basically, they had different departments that handle different things, right? So you handle this one, you take it, this is what we want it to look like, build it, bring it to us, tell us what it looks like, tell us how we're doing. The next department, same thing, take this piece, build it, groom it, bring it back to us and tell us how we're doing. We want to get to this point in our business by this date. And that's the way they did everything. So each department had to come back with their piece built and at that scale to that amount or whatever they were looking to do by that date. And if it wasn't done, then tell us how we can do it. How do we pivot? How do we turn it and do it? So if we came together in our personal businesses doing exactly the same thing, there is nothing that we couldn't do. And in my opinion, that's probably the best way to do it.
Absolutely. Of course. Listen, I agree with that, right?
Right.
That's exactly what I've been working on building and having all of the Black financial specialists come together.
Exactly.
I could sit here and go on the internet and Google for hours and read all of the books and take all of the classes, but why? If I can just partner with Marietta, who does financing, and I can just partner with John, who invests in Africa already and has the systems in place, and we can create that cohesive cooperative to work together and bring Black Wall Street to actual reality. I think that's amazing.
Yes.
And John, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that's the way to do it. And I definitely think, I tell people all the time, your business is not your child, but it does grow up like a child, because we have this thing where we're afraid of mergers and acquisitions as though mergers and acquisitions are theft, and they're not. We even call people out who might go through a merger and acquisition process of a Black owned brand and then do something greater for our community after that merger or after that acquisition. And we'll be like, oh, you sold out the Black owned brand. No, that's business. What they did was business. That's not a sellout, so we're afraid of this kind of merging and acquisition. And we have it in our head that someone wants to steal what's ours. And we can't talk about it. We can't do anything with it. And I remember, I think I was watching Oprah talk to the founder of Spanx, and she said that there were 6 or 7 straight up patent infringements. She had a patent on Spanx. She invented it. It wasn't like a trademark. Right. And she never even went after any of them. And all of them failed. because they didn't have, her vision. And she wouldn't be bothered with spending the money to even, and this is the theft. And she was like, forget it. And she's a billionaire. She's not a millionaire. She's a billionaire, and she got it. And that's one of the things that we need to understand is, yeah, we all want our kids to grow up to be doctors, but they might grow up and be a singer. They might grow up and be a dancer. And what we see when we're trying to help somebody build their business is when that child decides what they want to be, they fight them instead of moving with them. So we've had people who are like, yeah, I'm going to do this fashion thing. I'm going to make all these dresses. Da, 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 da. Oh, I got this deal on hats. So let me sell that just to get some money in the bank, and the hats sell out. And I'm like, looks like you have a hat business. And they're like, no, 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 no. I have a dress business. I do not have a hat business. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure you have a hat business. And we don't roll with those punches, and we don't understand that our business might become something we never imagined it would become. And we got to let it grow up, and we got to, work with it.
And John, you're absolutely right on that, because I have seen that even recently. The company that I was speaking about, that was their exit strategy, is to build this company to that $5 billion company. They said 5 years, but they did it in 3 years. Their intent was to have that company acquisition. So that was their actual desire. So we just need to follow suit.
Yeah,
And
I
let
really
the company
think,
grow up.
yes.
So you really don't know what your company is going to become, because I saw this company change positions, change directions 3 times before they got to the point where they were going to be.
Wow.
So as they pivoted each time, the company grew even more. So it's just a matter of watching and paying attention to what you're doing. But like I said, it has to grow up.
Yeah. And I feel like the Nike mentality is overrated. The just do it mentality is a bit overrated, because you can build something, you can go into a merger and an acquisition, you can sell whatever you built and really do something else well. Just because you have a vision, just because you know what you're calling, and just because you know you can do it, doesn't mean you got to do it first.
Right.
You can build something else to support that vision, and to know that after I sell this thing, I will be able to handle what's my true calling completely and fully, and do it from the jump. And I'll have the network to make sure it succeeds. And I think we don't look at that all the time. We're fine with a 40-year plan of working for somebody else and then seeing if we can retire. But we won't give ourselves a 10-year plan of building a business for 5 years, selling it, and then over the next 5 years, setting up our entire family as a dynasty for life. For some reason, that's unthinkable. So, it is mindset, and it is education, and figuring out how to really do this.
So it's interesting that you bring up like building up a business and selling a business, because like for me, I'm like, I don't even think that I have the strength to give away, like I put my blood, sweat, and tears in this thing. I want to keep it forever. I want to I want the legacy to go down my line, right? But I mean, at some point, someone's gonna say, I really don't want to do the family business, and so then what happens, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, what do you do when you have those two options? Like, I want to build this business, I want to hold it and have it be a legacy line, or I just want to build it enough to make enough money to sell it and then create the wealth that way. Well, how do you guys picture that?
So there's a word that Black people don't use often, and that I use to Black people very often, because we need to do it more. And that word is royalty. I close more royalty deals than equity or debt deals, and I do it on purpose. And it's not right for every business, but you don't always have to completely step away. If a company has done their due diligence and they know what your company is worth, and they know what you bring to the table in that company, you can definitely stay on board. You can definitely structure a royalty deal, and you can make sure that you're being paid down the road a very decent amount of money. For example, we did a $1 per unit royalty deal on a pharmaceutical company. They sell like 100,000 units of IV bags a day, and you have a $1 per unit royalty deal with them. So $100,000 a day is the royalty you're owed. And because it's royalty and not equity, it comes before they pay their bills. It comes before they pay their people, right? Your dividends come after the fact. Royalty has to be paid first. It's a bill. It's like rent. So I think there are plenty of ways we can structure deals, and investors love royalty too. So when we're being turned down for equity, but we have sales, we might not have the sales that we want, but we have sales. We start throwing royalty deals out there. And a lot of those investors who didn't want equity because they didn't think that we had the ability to scale, but they know we have sales. Well, I know this guy's doing, 50,000 units a month. I don't think he can scale to 1 million, but I know he's doing 50,000. So if I can get a dime for every unit forever, you know, which that I don't recommend. I recommend it be a diminishing royalty or there be a term. But, if I can get royalty for X amount of years, a dime per unit, well, if he scales, I win. If he doesn't scale, I win, and now I'm ready to do the deal rather than taking 10% of a company. But then if he scales, then maybe we win because how far did he scale and am I going to get paid back? So it changes the discussion dramatically, and it's just not something that we do. So that's how I see that part of it. I'm sure Marietta has something cool for us there.
No, I certainly agree with that. And in fact, I kind of forgot about that word royalty, because I've seen more in the venture capitalist arena, where you go to a venture capitalist to get the money for your business, and of course they want a piece of the pie, but of course they have to see that that business is going to be able to make money as opposed to lose money. So you're not going to get that money if they think that way. Well, 3 months or 3 years down the road, it's not going to be doing as well. They need to see that plan. They need to see the projections. They need to know that, hey, in 3 years, I'm going to be making money. So they may not make it that first year, but they're going to know in 3 years, I want to be making this amount of money. We have to basically pull it together ourselves and build a company as if we're going to sell it. You don't have to sell it. If you don't want to, you can stay in it as long as you want to, but build it so that you can sell it if that's your choice or if you have to later down the line.
I love that. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I feel a little better. I feel my business to sell, but I don't know about that selling part. But I like royalties, and I also wanted to talk to you guys about like selling your IP. Like, what exactly does that look like, and is that the same as royalties, or is that different? Like, licensing it out. What's the difference there?
Well, from my experience, when you license a product, yes, it is a royalty by like the SEC definitions. Yes, it is a royalty. The difference is that the back end term might be open. So what that means is if I'm licensing you my property, and in a month you stop using my property, then you're no longer paying for the license, right? So me as a person getting that type of royalty, I don't actually know how long I'm going to get the royalty because it's a license. So they're paying per use. Whereas royalty on the other side, when it's just a straight royalty deal, if it was diminishing, it might be something like you're going to get 10 cents a unit per year, but every year you're going to lose a cent until you get down to 2 cents, and then maybe you'll get that for an additional 10 years. So that you know exactly what it is and it's kind of mapped out and you know what's going on. Obviously, the best situation for them is, or you, depending on who's actually receiving the royalty, is a royalty in perpetuity. But that's rare. That's not something that I would ever tell anybody to bank on. So licensing versus royalty, the main difference is you don't know the term at which it will end. And depending on your strategy, like if you're Bill Gates, his strategy was he knew it was never going to end. He knew he was going to change the industry. So he licensed the software to IBM, and they're like, we'll stop using this guy in 6 months, whatever. It's just a license. And then they found out that their machine wasn't worth much without the software. And now they couldn't negotiate because the license was already in play. So you can't change the terms of the license, or else you might lose the entire license altogether. And he just goes to the next machine company that has now proven the concept that they need this, and just do the deal with them. So you got to kind of be strategic with licenses, because you may screw yourself if you don't see the full potential of whatever it is you're licensing to or licensing for.
Nice.
Right. And I would agree with John on that. I don't have a whole lot to say about it because he's already covered it. But I'm just going to say I'm not a big proponent of, that type of investing, but that works better for the big companies. I would say as a small up and coming company, or even as just a mid-sized company, it's probably not the best type of vision you should have. I would stay away from that.
And why is that?
Well, only because you have no idea when you're going to lose, or how long you have to make those investments, or to you don't know what that company is going to be doing. And so unless you are intertwined with that company on a day-to-day basis, or at least a month-to-month basis, to see where they're going, what their projections are, you don't really know. So I would just stay away from it myself.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I would advise anyone who really feels as though they need to do it to renegotiate that whole situation, and say, hey, listen, I understand what you want, but how about what we do is we create a joint venture and create a new entity, and that entity will be licensed what it is that you're looking for, and let's negotiate some things around that. So that you give this new company, and with the joint venture, you can give the company an expiration date. So when you register that company, you can say this company will expire in 3 years and no longer exist.
Right.
And so I agree with you 100%.
Nice. Thank you guys for that. We spurred off a little bit into the deeper financial part of it. So let's get back to a little bit more of a cultural, friendly.
Right.
So what are the significant differences in your industry pre-corona and post-corona? Because that's like a lot of folks are scared to even like start a business or like get a loan right now because of the pandemic. So Marietta, I know you deal directly with that. So do you want to speak on that first?
Yes. So pre-COVID, people were very well okay with getting a loan. Okay, they were looking for loans, but as COVID came around and hit, it's almost like everything stopped. The banks stopped lending. They put a stop on that. So people started using their personal credit, and of course that plummeted because it was being used by personal credit. But now recently, within the last couple of months, the lenders have now started lending again. Let me just backtrack on that. With the stimulus package that the government gave us, people, even with that was not really a big help, to be honest with you, for a lot of business owners, because it was only enough to cover a couple of months. We had no idea that this pandemic was going to last as long as it has been. But at least the banks are now starting to lend again. They've raised their criteria, of course. So it's still not something that most of us small business owners can go out and get. So what you want to do is, at this point, one of the things that I like about my business is that we can help you get loans that are outside of the bank lending criteria, right? Some of them based on your personal credit, but building business credit is probably the best way to go forward and to continue, because that's what we should have been doing in the first place. Had we had these business credit built up prior to the pandemic, many of the business owners that went out of business would still be in business, because at least they had maybe a credit line or somewhere to go. Because if you've built up good business credit, even during this pandemic, you would have been able to get a loan, okay, to keep your business up and running, or to take that business and pivot it to something else. But because a lot of business owners were not educated on having business credit, or what they thought was business credit was not business credit, they went out of business. What many business owners think is business credit is having a business credit card that they can get increases on. That's not business credit. Business credit has to be real, and true business credit is reported to the 3 credit bureaus. And almost every business owner that I have talked to since this pandemic and since I've been doing the business credit, none of them even knew what the 3 business credit bureaus are. So we need to educate ourselves on building business credit, getting it there. You're gonna be spending money on things that you already buy anyway. And you may want to, spend a little outside of that. And one of those things, how we bring it together is, hey, you may be building business credit, but you know another business that may need some of the same products that you do. Hey, buy those products for that person on your credit. And guess what? It's going to help you build business credit. But you're getting their products for them, and it's good for everybody. And I guess I forgot where I was going with that. But anyway. One of the significant differences, the significant difference is that I think more business owners are now learning about the business credit, about building business credit as well as building their personal credit, but they're learning it the hard way. That's the thing.
John, do you want to speak a little bit on that? Or?
Sure. So we were kind of in a unique position. Pre-corona, it broke my heart that it was incredibly difficult for my own people, Black American people, to really see the potential of Africa. So most of our clients were Afro-Brits, Afro-Swedes, Caribbean people, and that was like our main clientele. And then people, I think for 2 different reasons. I think number one, they had the time to really look into it and really figure out what was going on. I know that we saw a data spike in clientele around George Floyd, but around when Ghana honored George Floyd, and they said, "Oh wait, these people, like, they are paying attention to us. They do see a commonality with us," because there's that myth that they don't like us, and it's just not true. And so I think it's pretty cool now that African Americans are like, wait. For one, I can see what's going on over there, and I think I like it. And then for 2, I think they're looking at it and saying, okay, I understand how long it's going to take me now to build my credit up. I understand how long it's going to take me now to get in a place where I can loan the money that I need to loan to get things done. So going to Africa and doing it for 1/4 of the cost is now much more attractive, where they're saying, okay, well, I can't, open back up my spice shop for the spices I used to sell. It's going to cost me X amount of dollars to do it. But for 1/4 of that, I can open up a completely new spice shop in Africa. I now have the African market. I've now technically scaled global, and I can ship my products back to the U.S. and go from there. So it gives them a leveling of the playing field as far as what it costs to do a thing, by doing it in a cheaper place. And I think that's really been appealing to people. So it kind of helped us. It was interesting how that worked out.
So a nice turn of events. It's like, ooh, this piques my interest now. And a lot of people are interested in it too, just because they want to escape, right?
That's it. Yep, that's absolutely it.
Yeah, well, I need something outside of the United States, because if this goes on for more time, I need to be somewhere safe and secure, right?
Absolutely.
And be able to build your business and prosper, because we're already in talks of the second wave and everything getting shut down once again.
Right.
Started to panic again. In that same respect, I did want to ask you guys, like, how do you feel about the SBA loans, grants, like this mishigash of it being like combined in some kind of way? How do you guys feel about those? Do you think that they're good? Do you think that they're bad? How do people get them?
So, I mean, from our point of view and what we've been dealing with, they're good in the sense that there's something there. They're bad in the sense that they're not enough. And they're also bad in the sense that the criteria reflects institutional racism. So you'll hear the government say that small businesses are the lifeblood of America, and it's the backbone of the economy, and they're right. And that same authority knows that 95% of all Black-owned businesses are sole proprietorships, or they don't have their paperwork together. But they do know that those businesses are fueling the economy. Black people like to spend. We push a lot of money into this economy, and they know it.
Mm-hmm.
So they talk about the small businesses. They know what that means in relation to us. But then when they set up the criteria, they make sure that we're pushed out because they know how we operate business currently. And it is the wrong way to operate business. But if they wanted to help and they have the data, then they would say, okay, listen, we know how this community does business. We know that we can't ask for certain paperwork because they don't have it. But we also know that they're a huge part of the spending in this community. Without Black spending, Amazon would not be what it is. Black spending is absurd, and Amazon pays for its entire corporate budget during its peak season, which is the day after Thanksgiving until something like the 15th of February. Pays for the whole year. Everybody's salary, all operations, all of that gets paid in that time frame. So we keep some of these giants alive, and they knew it, and they still set up the policy so that 95% of us would be shut out. So in that regard, no, it's not good. And hopefully, if they come up with a second wave, now that it's kind of been exposed, I still don't hear enough people talking about it, but people kind of know now. Hopefully, they'll come back and they'll do something a little bit differently on that.
Yeah, I agree with that too, because only about 3% of small Black businesses got anything the first time.
That's right.
Even though we have oodles of business, you know.
Yep.
But and it's like you said, it's because that criteria. And one of those criteria was your personal credit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they looked at your personal credit, and knowing that, you know, we use our personal credit to help build our business or keep our business afloat. That was one of those things that they put in there.
Yeah.
And of course, we didn't know about the business credit, so we couldn't use that. But
Right.
I totally agree. It is good that there was something there. So some Black businesses were able to obtain, you know, some of the monies, but a lot of them were not. And that's where your alternative financing comes in as well. And that's where the business credit comes in. We have to educate ourselves.
Absolutely agree. Because I was amongst and I have all my paperwork together, and that still didn't matter. I still didn't get I didn't get the grant, the $1,000 grant, even though I told the business owner about it, and she got it, but I didn't. And then they like 2 months later, like, hey, by the way, you know, do you want to apply for this loan that we have?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's see what happens with that. Ghosts, like completely no more communication after that. I don't know what happened with that application. I don't know. I have no idea. And so I definitely agree that somewhere down the line, someone must have like went on my website and be like, oh, she's very pro-Black. Like, she's a Black business. I don't know. We're not going to give her any money. Like, I feel that way personally.
Go ahead.
And I will say that a lot of times the things that if you're not compliant with the lenders on the front end, they will deny you and not tell you why. It could be as simple as, hey, you used your personal address as your business address. It could be as simple as that. And that's all they need, but they won't tell you.
That's absolutely correct. I actually had someone who was using their home, and it was appropriate, and we changed their business address to Suite 201 and submitted the exact same application, and it went through.
Yeah.
So, you know, and Suite 201 was the shed in the back of their house.
Okay. Right. I like Suite 201.
But I definitely want to get into, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but how has the election, you feel, affected global relations?
How has the election affected global finance?
Yes, global finance.
Wow.
People getting into it, the actual structure itself, opportunities, that kind of like how has, or if it has, maybe it hasn't, right? Like, and maybe that's your perspective, but how has the election affected global finance?
In my world, I haven't seen where it's done there's been any change so far. I mean, not to say that there won't be later on, but so far I haven't seen any real change.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only thing that I've seen since the last election is a very weak indicator that there might be more confidence in the U.S. dollar. And again, very weak. I don't want anybody quoting me online on this indicator. It's a very weak indicator, but I transfer money to Africa often. And so during the last 4 years, the faith in the U.S. dollar had gone down, so that difference between the U.S. dollar and whatever currency I was dealing with, it reflected in that, right? So the U.S. dollar was lower against that currency. So maybe, $100 would be $5,000 there. Now all of a sudden, $100 is only 4,500. For the last 4 years. Recently, it's shot up. So now that $100 that maybe was 5,000 5 years ago, now it's like 5,500. So that's the only indicator that I've seen, but no like hardcore market stuff or anything like that. So
have you seen any movement in regards to other currencies, like increasing in value, and so people flooding
yes,
that market?
yes. The Kuwaiti dinar is nearly 3 times the U.S. dollar. So which is ridiculous. But yes, the Kuwaiti dinar is about 3 times the US dollar right now. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but it's definitely worth more against the dollar than the British pound is. But that's all you'll ever hear because the Brits are white and the Kuwaitis are brown. So you'll hear that the British currency is worth more than the US currency, but you'll never hear that the Kuwaiti currency is almost 3 times more than the US currency.
Okay. And do you guys feel like, depending on the president that we actually get, because who knows now, right? Like we're all
right.
We have no idea what's going on over there.
Right. We know how it should go, but
Yes.
How it should go, right? Like,
Yes.
but do you feel like there's going to be a global finance shift depending on what happens on Capitol Hill?
Marietta?
Well, I think that if it shifts in the right direction, yeah, we'll see some global shift, but it's going to take time because of first of all because of the pandemic, and of course because of the things that our current president has put in place, and then the fact that he has so many fighting against, and I'm going to say us, because that's really what he's fighting against is us. I think it's going to take some time for us to really see a real shift in a positive direction.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I saw something that was interesting. Elizabeth Warren was talking more about it. And of course, she didn't get the nomination, so it kind of died out. But she wasn't talking about it as a political campaign promise. She was just talking about kind of what we're doing as a country. And she mentioned something about like US dollar coin or, American dollar coin. I forget what she called it. But she was talking about the federal treasury having its own crypto and that getting a slice of the treasury budget. And she was talking about it as a matter of fact type of thing, like, oh yeah, we have to do this because there's going to be a shortage on currency, and so it wasn't like, oh, if you guys elect me, I'm going to do. It seemed to be something that was in the works, and no one else ever brought that up again. And I was kind of like, hey, wait, what'd she just say?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I feel like there is a shift coming currency wise, and I feel like it may be something that we can capitalize on. I've seen some really brilliant Black companies. One's called Guapcoin. There's another one. I wish I remember their name. But really brilliant, just Black-owned monetary crypto, and they're past, the brain point of like Bitcoin. Like they're talking like crypto where you can sell property in the blockchain and everyone can see the deed to the property in the blockchain. So you completely eliminate this whole thing of, well, is someone stealing this property, or are they selling property they don't own? Like, because the blockchain, anyone can view it. So you get a full lineup of what's going on with these things, and just really cool things coming out of our community. And I really think that's where we shine, when it's something that we can sit at home, get in front of a computer, really get into, really learn how to do, and then run it from there. It's the only space where no one knows who, Coin God 24 is. All they know is that their code is amazing, you know. And so I'm seeing a lot of good things in that space for our people, and I can't wait to see what they do.
Nice, nice. We were also talking earlier, and I wanted to ask this question, and I forgot. Now I remember. We were talking about mergers and like how Black people feel like it's selling out, like if you do those kinds of things. And I was on an IG live with the actual CEO and like the founder of One United Bank. And he was asked this question, and it was almost like somebody spit at him. Like that was his entire reaction. Like in terms of the question was like, would you ever go public with your company so that we can buy shares? And he was just so disgusted at the question. Like, no, of course not. Like, how do we maintain our Black excellence if I open it up to the public and then white people can now buy a piece of my company? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do we keep that Black integrity, right? So how do you guys feel about those kinds of, talks and situations that happened with all Black companies?
I think it goes back to that mentality that's really been it's really a legacy of slavery. I think it goes back to thinking that if we don't control completely and 100% whatever it is we have in our hands, somehow master has stole it from us. And we're not giving anymore. We've given enough, and that's it. So I think that the attitudes, while possibly healthy, we project them so far past that level in which they are healthy that they become toxic for other areas of our life. Right. So, yeah, maybe we should feel that way about civil rights, and maybe we should feel that way about being able to vote, and maybe we should feel that way about these things. Like, yeah, we've given enough and we're not giving anymore. But we apply these things as slogans to our entire psyche. And it ends up harming us in places where things are just not that black and white. And I think people don't really come to terms with the fact that companies and corporations are virtual things. They act as people. They have some of the same rights as people, but they don't exist. They're straw people, and we have to work them in that way. And instead, people, they're very specific, and I don't really hear white people talk about companies and corporations the same way we do. We act like Nike did something. And Nike's not going to jail. If somebody on the board of Nike does something wrong, board members are going to jail. Nike's not going to jail, but Nike can contribute to a political campaign, but Nike can't be arrested. So it's this very weird, playground that we've created, and really we haven't created it, that they've created, that we operate in,
right.
where there are these fictitious people running around, but yet we can't treat them as people all of the time. And so when we get caught up in our slogans, plus treating these entities like they're actual real people that we can do something to, rather than looking at their management teams and looking at their boards and looking how we can leverage things like that, looking at how we can leverage even with common stock, that we have our 401ks, and we probably have stock in some of these biggest companies, and how we can self-direct that, and how we can start voting on issues on their board, that affect us. So something happens, the guys get the cops called on them at Starbucks. There's probably enough Black people who own Starbucks in their 401k that we could have changed the policy because we said so. And they just don't realize it. So, because we don't think about it that way. Starbucks is a person. Look at what Starbucks did. Not Starbucks is an entity controlled by a board, which may control the CEO. And they're just not seeing it that way. So yeah, I really feel like it's just a lack of understanding of how this world and the make-believe world that sits on top of it, because that's really legitimately what it is, how that works.
I definitely agree. Because I was going to say that we have to go back to what we said before. It's a matter of how we educate ourselves on what we're going to do with our businesses, and how we project what that business is going to be in 5 years, in 10 years. Where do we want it to go? If you don't think about those things up front, somebody posed that question to you, you won't know. You won't know what you're going to do because you hadn't thought about it. So one of the ways of getting ourselves out of that question is thinking about it ahead of time. You don't have to do it. We don't have to do it. We just have to think about it. And what would we do if that situation came about? So the question still becomes, what do I do if I have to sell? Granted, if we open it up to public, then initially we may have control. We'll have control, but you also have to think about, okay, what if I do something that board doesn't like and they vote me out? You have to think it completely through before you make that decision. But the problem is we don't educate ourselves enough to know that this is something we have to do. You could actually potentially make a whole lot more money by opening up to the public. The company I spoke about earlier, that was their whole game plan, was to open it up to the public. They actually sold us shares that they paid for so that they could have that common stock in place so that when the company came to be acquisition, or they had to open up to the public first, and then they will acquisition. But they actually had a strategy for doing just that. We have to do the same thing with our small businesses. Strategize it, plan it out every year. See project where you need to be for the next year. Think about, well, maybe if I do open it to the public, what's the value in that? What's not the value? Where do it go? If I decide not to open, what's the value in that? We have to really just kind of think about it. I mean, give it some real thought. And you can't think about it today and not think about it, next year, because we don't know where we're going. We had no idea this pandemic was going to hit us. A lot of us failed. A lot of us went down. A lot of us pivoted as well, but we didn't have a plan in place just in case.
Right.
I think that's the key, is having that plan in place.
Yeah. As a tribe, we're great at movements. We're survivalists by necessity, and we're great at movements. And even some of the greatest leaders of our movements, whether MLK or Malcolm X, when they were asked similar questions about, well, what do you do next? It's just, oh, well, whatever the people need, because it was a movement. So once you run out of whatever cause you're moving towards, you kind of run out of steam on answering those questions. And we run a lot of businesses like that. We run a lot of businesses as movements. And so, that's why we own so many nonprofits and so many halfway houses and so many. And it's like, oh, well, I just want to make sure that the people aren't cold. But that's not a business strategy, even a nonprofit business strategy. That's a goal, that might be a mission, but it's not the strategy. So a lot of times it's because we've turned a movement into a business, and then we haven't transformed that movement into an actual strategy. And maybe we can't, and that's okay. There's plenty of things I can't do. And then I go find, Marietta, and she can do them. But we have that issue there. That's what we really, really got to get past, is that there's certain things I can't do, and I need to hire somebody to do it for me. And that's it. I mean, we've run into like the littlest, smallest things. Like everybody's like, oh, go to your Department of State, register your company, and that's that. You can do it yourself. And we have run into like people who try to do that, and their articles of incorporation are so jacked up, and they'll give them to you all jacked up. The state will give you the jacked up articles of incorporation. And then they can't operate like their DUNS number. Now there's a problem to get their DUNS number, because every article of incorporation will ask, like, what are you in business for? What is it that you're doing? And somebody will put in there, anything a corporation can do. Well, now how do you get a DUNS number? How do you get and it's just about not knowing. Like, yes, do you have the mental capacity to maybe fill out that form? Sure. But this is the first time you're doing it. You're always going to make a mistake the first time you do anything. So you want to go talk to someone who's done it 100 times. And if you can get in touch with somebody who's done it 1,000 times, great. And if you find someone who's done it 10,000 times, great. But the more you do a thing, the better you're going to get at it. That's just the way everything works.
Right.
So a lot of this stuff, it's just a matter of us, saying, listen, this is what I do. This is what I'm great at, and believing in that. That has to be a real statement, you know, and focusing on what you're great at, and then finding other people to help you do what you don't know, and hopefully to teach you. You know, there's nothing wrong with a mentorship and a collaborative and a partnership.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And in that respect, I definitely appreciate both of you for coming on today. And I want to mention to everyone out there in the universe that Marietta and John are both a part of the Queen Blueprint, my business, Imperial Fiscal Cooperative. And we do the same thing that both of them have spoke about, right? So in my business, and I'll just say very briefly how I got into business was like being able to pay off my 50K debt and purchasing my first home at the age of 26. But I'm still 26. So I know everything that there is to know about these industries and these areas because I don't actually operate within them. I operate within the realm of psychology because that's what I have my degree in. So what I did was I sat down and I was like, well, how can I do both? Physically, I can't, right? Like that's not possible. I can't sit here and learn the 20 years of experience Marietta has or the like 30 years of experience John may have, right? Instead, I say, let me reach out to these people and see if they can come on board and we can actually take hold of the client and shift them through our businesses so that they, as they exit, or they may not even need to exit, right? They may stay with us forever and ever, and I hope they do. But as they enter and whatever financial needs they may have, be it business mentorship that John does, be it getting that financing to start up the business and understanding and starting up that business credit that Marietta does, or understanding your money mind and how do I actually budget and what does that look like? How do I purchase a home? Who do I go to purchase that home, right? Candace can help you with that, right? And so what happens is that this Black client comes in and they know that they're in good hands and trusted hands with Black professionals, right? Because representation absolutely matters, right? I'm more comfortable going to John because he looks like me, right? Because he's gone through the things that I've gone through, right? Maybe not on the same exact level, but on a cultural level, he understands me. Same thing with Marietta, right? Like if I go to her and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out about trying to get financing. How do I do this? What the heck is business credit? I'm not going to feel the same amount of confidence in asking that question if I go to someone who doesn't look like me. So for the Black community, we have created this cooperative in order to service you. And I want you guys to take full advantage of all of these amazing professionals that we have. And these are only two in the cooperative. There are a myriad of others. So if you need like credit repair and all that good stuff, we have someone to service you. So if you would like to get in contact with any of the professionals that we have, if you want to get in contact with me, you can go to www.thequeenblueprint.com. And we are all located there. You can also follow me, Queen Candace, your favorite money management specialist, at the Queen Blueprint on Instagram and Facebook. And I would love for Marietta and John both to give their information so that you can reach out to them as well. So go ahead.
Well, you can reach me at Richmond Capital Solutions on the web, on Facebook, Richmond Capital, and on Instagram, Richmond Capital _.
And you can reach me at diasporaltd.com. That's diasporalimited.com. And on social media, we're at Diaspora Freedom on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And on LinkedIn, we're Diaspora Initiative LLC.
Nice. So do you guys want to leave the public with any last thoughts, any advice that you may have?
Yes, I will say, if you are a small business owner and you are projecting to be in business next year, 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years from now, get started on your business credit. get started on your business, because you don't have to, it has nothing to do with your personal credit. So you can actually start business credit before you even start your business.
Nice. And John?
And I would say that if you guys are interested in manufacturing, if you're interested in land ownership, and if you're interested in going global, definitely take a look at Africa. Africa is going to be where all the money is for the next 30 years. And it's going to be the last place that can peacefully transition away from being a factory. China was the last factory. Now they want to live like us in Europe. Africa is going to be the next factory. There's only one place left. So 30 to 40 years from now, it's going to be South America. And the powers that be are going to try to make sure that they never get out of being the factory, because there is no other factory. So the last best place is Africa. And just look at the finances of the countries. Look at where they're investing. Look where they're putting their money, and follow them.
Yes, thank you both. And my last thoughts are, listen here, if you want information from Black voices and continuing conversations like these, then you are in the right space, right? Please make sure that you tune into Young Boss Media. There is a myriad of great shows that teach you all types of things, from like psychology and how to deal with your anxiety and how to deal with cultural trauma, because that's what we're dealing with today, right? Right now, in the past, all around, Black people are just dealing with cultural trauma, right? So there's a great show for that. There's a great show to learn about, business economics and how do I start a business and what do I do with that. There's another show where we just literally talk about all of the things that go on in Black pop culture and have a good conversation about it. And then, of course, there's my show, Royalty, where we actually talk about all of these financial conversations that are not talked about at the dinner table that need to be talked about in the Black community. So definitely stay tuned to Young Boss Media. Go to youngbossmedia.com and get connected. You can get a whole nice newsletter and everything, like of everything that we do. So tune in. And also make sure you donate, because all of the hosts, we give up our time, right? And so we would love to continue doing that and supporting the Black community at large. So make sure you donate to Young Boss Media by going to paypal.me/YoungBossMedia. Contribute. We are actively building the Black community, building Black Wall Street. And so we definitely want to keep doing that. Thank you guys so much for attending, for coming onto the panel and speaking today. We appreciate you so very much. And thank all of you for tuning in. I'm Queen Candace, your favorite money management specialist, and you've been watching Bridging the Atlantic on Young Boss Media. Have an amazing rest of your Saturday, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, guys.
Bye-bye.